On the phone with me from, doesn't this sound beautiful? The actual coast of Maine over there in the U.S. Just fabulous stuff. I remember driving down that way. Good morning, Annie. How are you?
Good. Thank you, Jim. How are you?
I'm doing great. I remember driving down that way. I was up in Nova Scotia, and we were heading down towards New York to see a relative, and I thought, what beautiful, one of those places you think, I could live here. And there you are. Is it as nice as it seems?
You know, it's even nicer than I expected. It's really nice, and of course it's scenic and beautiful, but the people are just extraordinarily deeply kind. It's a wonderful place to live.
Oh, that's just awesome. Listen, Annie, I want the people to get to know a little bit about you. You were in Michigan when you started, and you started off as a dancer. How long did that happen?
Well, I was a little kid who was thrown into dance classes and thought that was all I ever needed to do for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. And I danced through college.
Wow.
Then the next choice was to move to New York City, and I just couldn't see myself in the big city, so I followed visual art at that point. But I'd been playing guitar since I was 10. It was my 10th birthday present that I begged for, was a guitar. And it was always kind of my secret passion, and at some point I realized I had been doing that longer than anything else, and I'd gotten better at it than I was at anything else, and I loved it more than anything else. So that's when I started playing music.
Yeah, and you've been writing for a long time. Did that start when you sort of picked up the guitar, or were you doing that a little bit before?
Well, writing songs started the minute I picked up a guitar. I came from a very creative family, and we kind of made things if we wanted them. We made all our own clothes and furniture and everything. So when I picked up a guitar and I wanted to play a song, I just wrote it. It didn't occur to me that was even out of the ordinary.
Fabulous stuff here. And I want to ask you, too, you moved around from place to place. Was there a reason for that, other than, like you were teasing me on the phone about getting kicked out of here or whatever? You've been all over the States, and is that something you had planned to do?
I never planned any of this. It was just whatever door opened, I always said yes. So when the opportunity came to move to Washington State, I did that. Then I moved to North Carolina and then Massachusetts, back to Michigan. I lived in Ohio and Kentucky and then California. And now I'm in Maine.
Wow. I'm a homebody. I haven't been out of Hamilton other than to go on trips, so I find this really kind of nice, exciting. You know, good for you. This sounds terrific, actually. And how many albums do you have out there in that catalog of yours? There's quite a few. Let them all know.
There are quite a few. The current one, Did You Hear the Red-Winged Blackbird, is number 15 in my solo catalog, but I also have 8 as the duo Hat Check Girl with my husband, Peter Galloway.
Oh, my goodness me. And the flavor has changed here and there on the albums. I know you dabble in a lot of different sort of genres. Tell us about the musical styles as you go back through that catalog.
There's sort of an evolution. Mm-hmm. I never really took a left turn, although I would kind of think about the collection of songs and how to represent them. So I have one that is sort of old-time bluegrass tinged, the record Ghost, where the fiddler Gabe Witcher is playing with me, wonderful fiddler. Mm-hmm. And there's one that I play with a string quartet and no guitar and nothing else, that one.
That's my kind of thing. I like that. That's yeah. So. And,
so there is a lot of variety.
That's really, really great. So I'm going to get the folks to know that we are talking to Annie Gallup, Gallup, and you need to check this lady out because she's been around for a while and has some, as she just said, some great stuff out there. So find that catalog. Where can they find some of these albums now, Annie?
They're all on iTunes and Spotify, and all of the places you can stream things. And I think iTunes might have copies for sale, or I don't even know anymore. The music business has changed so much since I got into it.
Yeah,
when we were actually selling actual CDs. But
I
they
have
are still out there.
I have practically been through that angle of conversation with so many artists recently about all this Spotify and changes in the music business. And yes or no, is it for the better or for the worse?
Yes or no. It's hard to give away your life's work for free.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So people are finding other ways to monetize. If you can stand hearing that word come out of my mouth, what we do, you have to be so resourceful. I've started. I learned how to make videos and do the graphic design, and that's how I create the revenue stream that supports my music.
Yeah, I was just at a theater last night. Tom Wilson of Blackie and the Rodeo Kings has put out a play on his life as he's found out he's Aboriginal and so on. And I think a lot of artists are finding those different venues and things to do streaming-wise that has taken away some of the money, etc. And I agree with you. It's something you have to do. And that gets us that gets us to Bob Jensen. How did that happen? You and Bob getting together on this poetry stuff?
That was just a strike of fortune, and it was just having a door open and saying yes to it. I've known Bob for a long time. Mm-hmm. I've known him as a booking agent and also as a poet from his recordings and his beautiful live performances. Mm-hmm. And I got in touch with him about doing some record promotion, and he suggested, why didn't we try collaborating on a song for a collection that he was doing of collaborations with other artists. He sent me a poem, and I made it into a song, and the experience was just delightful. From start to finish, it was just a joy. Working with Bob was a joy. His poetry was joyous. Mm-hmm. Everything just was so much fun that when it was finished, I didn't want to stop, and I said, what else do you have? And he sent me some more poems, and it really just evolved one at a time until eventually we had a whole collection, and we put it out as a CD.
And that CD is called Did You Hear the Red Wing Blackbird? And it is just full of wonderful, wonderful tunes. Now, when you heard this poetry, does it take you very long to decide the style of music you want to put to it, or how did it work in your mind, Annie?
Yeah, it was an interesting process because it's so different than the way I usually write, which is starting from scratch and writing the lyrics and the melody and having that whole evolution. Yeah. It was a completely different process to start with a finished work that had its own integrity that I wanted very much to not interfere with. Mm-hmm. So, it was a process of reading the poems over and over until they sort of had a cadence and a melody in my mind, and just trying to be true to the statement of the poem and the music of his language. Yeah,
well said. Well said. Good for you. Mm. And who helped you out with this album? Do you have any musicians and producers and that kind of thing?
I did the whole thing with the exception of 5 bass tracks, which Peter Galway, my husband, put on. It was really just a total immersion experience for me. I actually created a recording studio in my office so that I could just focus on this record. I just kind of went underground for 6 months and lived and breathed the process of making this record. And I did all the parts myself. I played all the instruments and did all the arranging and all the harmonies.
Wow. I'm not going to let you get away with that last sentence because I got to know, what all instruments did you actually play?
I played guitars, of course, and lap steel and dobro. Mm-hmm. I also played a tenor guitar and a ukulele and a 6-string banjo and a piano and some keyboards. I played the bass on a keyboard a few times.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent.
Yeah. It was fun to be able to stretch out and.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I know Bob Jensen has been, as you said, so easy to work with and a pleasant guy. I see that in a different light because he helps arrange things for this radio show a lot with artists. We just talked to Lucy McNeil and he suggested we talk to you, and it makes life so much easier. He's a great guy, and I'm like you, very fortunate to have got to know him. So
he's a great guy, and his poetry reflects that. His poetry is unfailingly kind and unflinchingly honest.
Yeah.
His poetry is very much an extension of who he is and how he lives his life.
Now, I have to ask you, we're going to get some songs on pretty soon, but I wanted to ask you a couple of things. You have had chronic Lyme disease, if I may say that on the air, and it's been chronic for you. And I wanted to let people know that it can still happen out there, especially at this time of year. Is it this time of year that's more important? What do you know about this disease, Annie?
I think spring and fall is when they say the ticks are the most dangerous. It's a life-changing disease. It really does mess you up. I have not only chronic Lyme, but I have the alpha-gal meat allergy, which really is a game changer.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, my congratulations to you then as you carry on so strongly doing what is an absolutely lovely album. And the second thing I wanted to ask you is, although you've traveled all over the States to live, you're pretty familiar with Canada. You've been to some really good concert areas, concert venues and festivals. Is there some that stick out in your mind?
Oh, Canada. I had... I had so much fun touring Canada. Yeah, the Stan Rogers Festival, the Winnipeg Festival, the Comox Valley Music Festival. The one in Fort Macleod. I had wonderful time touring Canada.
Good to hear.
Yeah.
Good to hear. All right, Annie, I'm going to let you pick us 3 songs off of this album. We're going to get them on the air. And as you pick them, maybe you can tell us a little bit about them. I think they're just great. Go ahead.
Oh, thank you. Well, let's start with Poor Man's Paris.
Okay.
Poor Man's Paris is a poem that Bob wrote shortly after he moved from the Maritimes to Montreal, a very turbulent time of his life, or just a lot of unsettling in his life, and he liked to go to his favorite park and write. And in this poem, he is at the park writing next to the pond, and he watches 2 young women falling in love and smoking hash, and that's the setup for his poem, where he takes you into that moment and then into the reveries in his mind.
Oh, wow. Yeah, good one.
Beautiful,
good one.
Yeah.
Poem. Number 2.
For the Million Candles Burning. It's a powerful, powerful poem that Bob wrote, inspired by a line in a Leonard Cohen song. The line is, for the million candles burning for the help that never came, from the song You Want It Darker. And Bob heard that and he said, there is a whole book in that line. And he thought about current events in the world, about the rise of fascism and COVID and gun violence. And he included all of that in this just breathtakingly beautiful, powerful, deep, dark poem.
Oh, we're going to look forward to that one for sure. One more.
Let's listen to Who But Daniel.
Okay.
Which is another of my favorites. Bob's gift for storytelling is just on display in this one. He tells a story of about a dream he had, and a laughing little child that he explores the whole story of this dream. And when he gets deeply into it, he describes a soul surfacing on the surface of a river like a leaping trout and then going back into the depths. And such a beautiful, powerful image that is one of the most striking images in his poetry.
Well said. I got to tell you, as we were sitting here talking, when we started mentioning Bob Jensen, this new album, you could just hear your enthusiasm for this album and this record coming through loud and clear. I'm glad you had what turns out to be a 6-month lot of fun and doing this.
Yes.
And, that's just awesome to hear it come through on the air. So congratulations. Great album.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah. And Annie, I hope we're not going to be strangers when we get a chance to do this again down the road, okay?
I hope so too. It's been really a pleasure. Thank you, Jim.
Okay. Take care. Thanks, and bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.
Annie Gallup, and the album, the words by Bob Jensen, the music by Annie Gallup. Did you hear the Red Wing Blackbird? And this is Poor Man's Paris, 93.3 CFMU on a Mother's Day Female Artist Special.
The rushes hover over sleepy shadows on the clover, where a blanket and a love affair unfold. Their voices float like lilies across a breathless pond, a thrill that all the open arms of heaven may not hold. Two girls caressed of summer, no second hand, their master, and on the breeze the incense stream of ash. They spark like wool in darkness when coaxed there from the flesh, on summer's eve of innocence before autumn's dawn of ash. And I'm living like a pauper, and I am soaking up the heat, and I love this poor man's Paris and the bustle in her street. Did you hear the red-winged blackbird? Did you hear the cooing dove? Je t'aime, je me souviens, I too was once in love. At dawn I dream of lovers who turn and walk toward me. At night I dream of lovers who turn and walk away. I dream of one with pale blue eyes and braids as sweet as lilac, and in her hand my gifted wild bouquet. Oh, reverie of softness with the currency of stone, a thrill that even angels may not savor as their own. Memories green as lilies floating on the pond's sweet breath. They spark like wool in darkness when stolen from the flesh. And I'm living like a pauper, and I am soaking up the heat, and I roam this poor man's Paris on a poor man's tired feet. All around me lovers, the sacred up above. Je t'aime, je me souviens, I once was blessed with love. Like a neuron, isn't that what neurons do? I'm reaching from the me, I'm reaching for the you, I'm reaching like the artist for that little wild bouquet. Before October's cooling nights take wild bouquets away. My eyes fragile as lilies floating just above the crush. They spark like oil in darkness when rested from the flesh. They reach into the city stream, they reach as children do. They reach in supplication for two eyes of pale blue. And I'm living like a pauper, and I am soaking up the sun, and I love this poor man's Paris where a for your love. Je t'aime, je me souviens, I too was once in love. Gates left open, now those burdened beasts all gone. For should they not taste freedom once before the burning dawn? Church door too is open, empty pulpit is a cell, and the last old woman standing cannot ring the heavy bell. And from his poet's grave, the prophet marvels at the shame. For the million candles burning, for the help that never came, for the million candles burning. Baptized there in blood on the cruel school floor, 19 lambs lay slaughtered with the law outside the door. And in the city named for the reigning queen of heaven, Lot's wife dared glance back while she was still confessing. And as the searing flames rise to the mountains from the sea, another queen is dying in another jubilee. And from his poet's grave, the prophet marvels at the shame. For the million candles burning, for the help that never came, for the million candles burning. Entreaty from the last night of the world, but just a simple why beneath the hateful flags unfurled. For the faithful look to heaven, for thine easy yoke, Rabbani, and a psalm rises like incense. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. Eli, Eli, lama sabachthani. And from his poet's grave, the prophet marvels at the shame. For the million candles burning, for the help that never came, for the million candles burning. And Rachel cries to heaven as her little ones proclaim, will you suffer us to come, O Lord? Must you kill the flame? A million candles burning, must you kill the flame?
We are going to do our giveaway right after this next song from Annie Gallup. Who but Daniel? 93.3 CFMU.
I saw him in a dream so many years ago, laughter beyond measure from that small aortic flow. Even now I cannot help but smile as I recall the way I knew his heart on that rainy night in fall. My voice was in his laughter and his joy in my soul. His His love was in my breast, like the bonfire's warming coals. And when I shook the sun, bade him wake the lazy day, still I felt his laughter, and it kept the rain at bay. All day long I wondered who this laughing child would be, could not place his eyes, but his soul was known to me. And though he never spoke, his message was quite plain. His heart was full of living, and his joy was unrestrained. And who could solve a dream like this but Daniel in the den? And who knows what a soul might choose to show the love within? Laughter left my ears. It was the darkest evening, watered with the cruelest tears. For the hopeful place we'd set for one as yet to come would be taken from our table before the morning sun. Our tears were like November's darkened days of frozen rain, and the searing air we breathed, splinters pulled against the grain. And when the skies had cleared and the tears had drained away, I thought back to the dream I had had upon that day. A laughing little boy without a single word to say, unbridled in his joy, like the leaping trout's ballet. Perhaps he made a shallow dive into the living stream, but still he saw the eddies where the sleeping rainbow was dreamed. Perhaps he saw the sorrow that was coming on the dawn. Perhaps he let me know the journey is still on. And who could share a dream like this but my Daniel in the den? And who knows what a soul might choose to show the love within? And who would share a dream